Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I was just telling Stephanie that I started a print job, and you can probably hear going as I'm printing it off. But anyhow, hopefully you're all doing well. How are you doing, Stephanie?
Good. How are you?
Good. We were just talking a little bit about the mess you cannot see. So I live with the mess you cannot see behind me on a constant basis.
And I told her mine is strategically hidden on this side of the room right now. So
yeah, that's how we live. That's how we live.
Yeah.
So Stephanie lives not that far from me in the scope of the world, right? Colorado girl. Yeah, she was here before me. So she's a Colorado girl before me. So tell everybody a little bit about you if they don't already know you. And I'm going to shed my shirt because I'm starting to get hot.
Sure. Yeah. Colorado girl for about 15 years now, which seems wild just when I actually count that out. I'm from New York originally. My husband's from out here. So I've been out here for about 15 years. I live in northern Colorado with my 4-year-old son and my husband and a new puppy that we just got this weekend. So life is shenanigans right now, but it's all good.
What kind of dog did you get?
It's a mix. It's a lab. I don't think I'd say it right. Dachshund mix. So
wait, what? I'm trying to picture what that would look like.
He's like a little bit shorter. He's got smaller legs, a little bit longer, but then like kind of labby in the face. He's cute. I'll just send him a picture later.
How old is he?
He's about 3 months. Yeah.
You're crazy. Puppies are hard.
Yeah. Right? We had a puppy 14 years ago, but we didn't have a toddler. So that's kind of the difference right now.
Now is the time. Hey, I see some people are coming in. I say hello from Chicago. I see somebody hi from Chicago. I'm thinking that's Edme, but I could be wrong because Edme is my good friend from Chicago. So I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's her. Make sure that you enable it so I can see your name because every time you comment, you get to go in the jar and then we're going to pull a winner. So make sure you comment that way we can get you in there and then make sure you've enabled it. If you're on my Facebook page, you don't need to enable anything, but if you're in the group, you do need to enable it. I don't know why. Facebook is crazy, but that's the rules. I'm just trying to follow them. So Colorado, new puppy, 4-year-old child.
Yes. And prior to that, I have 11 years experience in K2, a lot of experience with early literacy. I've been out of the classroom for a few years with my little guy because he has some specific health needs that just have me home right now. I know that's where I'm meant to be with him, but I still get to go in the classrooms, volunteer with some of my friends that work locally, which I love. And then I get to do PDs around the country and then also still connect with teachers through my blog, Falling Into First. So very much still a part of the education world as well.
Yeah. So you do a lot of professional development, both virtually and in real life.
Yeah.
World. Yeah. And I know that you have some things planned for us for the Educator Summit. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what you're talking about when we're all together?
So excited. So for the winter session, I'm doing basically 8 how-tos to bring the science of reading into your classroom. And I just really want to focus. I think a lot of teachers at this point have some familiarity with the science of reading, and they're wondering what that looks like in real practice, in real life with their students. And so we want to focus on the how this time, not just why we should be doing it, but how can you make it applicable? How can you make it practical in your K2 classroom? So I'm excited for that.
So let's take it from theory to practice.
Yes, and what that can look like and how a lot of times it's just like simple tweaks to things that you're already doing. So
right. You know, one thing that I've been really looking at, excited. I'm excited too, Gina. One of the things that I'm really looking at is the definition of explicit instruction versus implicit instruction. So, and I know that's a big question of what's the difference between, or what does explicit instruction look like? And, you know, I've just been digging a lot into that because I think that there's some people who are almost explicit, but not quite there yet. And they need to add a couple of things.
Little tweaks.
Do you have a couple things in mind? If not, I have some things I can share. I didn't tell you we were going to ask you this question, so you're like on the spotlight. But I was just just because I'm working on this presentation for Wednesday, no,
Yeah.
Tuesday. So anyhow, putting you on the spot.
No, I just think with explicit instruction, so two things that I think we sometimes every program or classroom generally touches upon, but they aren't always super explicit, is both phonemic awareness instruction and that phonics piece. And I think in general, like the science of reading gets a reputation for being all phonics. And while it's obviously a huge component of it, it's not the only piece. So, like going back to those babies who, if they can't sound out the words, where do we go? And we need to dial it back a notch and really focus on those phonemic awareness skills. Can they hear the sounds in the word first? So, making sure that you have explicit phonemic awareness instruction, and then also pairing that with explicit phonics instruction and having a scope and sequence that you follow. Yeah.
Right. Your district told us we can't use anything not adopted by the state or we will lose funding. Oh, Rebecca, what state are you in? Just go ahead and pop that in there, just so that other people who can maybe hear the same thing.
Yeah.
I know that there are lots of different people who are working on adopting curriculum and following it. You're from Texas, and following it with fidelity is like
fidelity and that expectation.
That word,
yes.
Fidelity. It's a good word.
It is a good word, but
one great thing I'm just going to say about Texas is the Educator Summit has been approved statewide for the state of Texas, which is amazing. Yay! So if you are signed up for the Educator Summit and you're in Texas, you can use those hours, all the hours towards your professional development hours. So we've been approved. But that wasn't what I was going to talk about. What I was going to talk about was, just the phonics part, because if you had asked me 5, 6, 7 years ago, do you teach phonics? I'd be like, yeah, I teach phonics. I say, this is the letter A and the A can make this sound, or this is a letter T and the letter T makes this sound. And that was kind of the end of it. Instead of really diving into, this is the letter T. Let's look at it, what my mouth looks like when I say the sound. Let's feel what our throat feels like. Let's say, let's see, if is air coming out or is it not? I mean, it's really, really explicit.
Intentional.
Is this a letter T? Can we think of all the words that start with T?
Right.
Or have the letter T or the sound T in there. Because that is something that's kind of tossed around a lot of, like, let's just say this is the letter. Let's all brainstorm all the words that start with this. And that's an enrichment thing, but that's not teaching. That's practicing. So, or sound sorting isn't teaching, that's practicing. And so we want to make sure that when we do explicit instruction, we are telling everybody, this is what this skill is about, and this is how we use it, and this is what, all of the ins and outs of it. So I think that's something that I think
and
a lot
everybody's
of people, check, got it. Phonemic awareness, check, but it has to really be explicit. If you follow You Fly, there's some, I just happen to have a little light reading here.
The best resource, yeah.
Do you have that, Stephanie?
I do.
It's wonderful for, teaching the new concepts. And the language there really is a great way to know the difference between explicit, what is explicit and what's not. So if it's not in there, then if it's not in that kind of wording, what you're using, all you need to do is just add that in there, right?
And just,
so
again, simple tweaks.
In a district that's not science of reading, and you're like, I need to follow this because we're, a Lucy Calkins school or a Fontes and Pinnell school. You can just add your own little secret sauce in there to take it to that next level, right?
For sure.
Okay, so Christina's saying she feels badly that my past students did not get the practice, and I know. Christina, if I could turn back time, I would totally go back and contact students that I've had in the past. I have reached out to parents that I've stayed in touch with that I knew. I mean, I can see them in my head, those students that worked really hard. And we worked hard. It wasn't a lack of working hard. It was just an act of, going on the wrong path. And to know that they left that school year feeling less than successful. I would love to be able to turn that back the tide. but you can't do that. All
No,
you
I
can do
think
is
we
kind of,
all have that same feeling to an extent too, but it's also I also feel like it's really powerful now, just like this movement we have going on where there's new information and it's being I guess I shouldn't even say new information. There's information that's being widely shared amongst the
yeah,
educational community right now.
yeah,
Teachers are saying, what else can I do? And so it's like
right,
that know better, do better, right? Like what
right.
we didn't know then, we know now. And we're just going to keep moving forward and helping these kids.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. We just have to, yeah, we just have to take what we know. And then if you have any sort of influence in your school, or maybe you also have a website, maybe you also have a Facebook group that you're participating in, try to spread that information. Sometimes people don't want to hear it, and so it depends on how much energy you have for it. But try to spread that information about, one, we should always remain curious, right? As
Right.
educators,
We're
we should
always
always,
learning ourselves. Yeah.
yeah, this is what we think we know now. And there's a really good chance, if Stephanie, you and I talk about the same subject 3 years from now, we might be adding other things to the conversation.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
hopefully, I mean, hopefully that's what's going to happen, right? Is that we're going to
And I learned from other teachers around me that are deep in this research right now too, and we're all kind of in that same place of I don't feel like any of us are an expert in it right now, but we're like adding to the pot as we learn more, and so
right.
thirsty for it. So
You know, the Measured Mom has a great podcast. If you're like, you know what, I've got kids at home and I've got, I don't have time to sit down with a professional book. Um, I think it's called Triple R. I think that's what it's called. Triple R teaching, I think is what it's called. But if you are like, you know what, I can only take bite sizes information. Look at the Triple R podcast, because she does take really bite sized information. And it's something that you can do. Sometimes when I'm blow drying my hair, I just put earbuds in, and because I can't hear it if it's like on my
me in
phone.
the car, that's my favorite thing is podcasts in the car because I can take in
Yeah.
information and I'm multitasking.
Yeah, so like those are always some great ways. What other great ways are there? I mean, webinars are great.
Absolutely.
Uh, Obviously, the education.
Following certain people, yeah, that share those tips and tidbits on
Yeah,
their social media. We're such a digital world right now too. So
right. I'm gonna get that for you, Christina, real quick. Okay, I think it's Triple R teaching podcast. Okay.
I think
Okay.
another cool thing we can do too as teachers, regardless of our program and things that we're supposed to be following, is like we send those newsletters home to parents, right? So if you just put
Yeah.
like a little tidbit somewhere in there of something that you're teaching in class that you can kind of share with your families, because this is new to a lot of them too. They grew up learning to read differently than we may be teaching their kids to read now. And so the more we can sort of communicate different terms with them. What is a decodable reader? What's a decodable word? What's a heart word? All of
Right.
those things, then we can really bridge that connection between home and school too, which goes a long way.
Right. And sometimes, I think I said this before, but if you haven't listened to Sold a Story, that podcast is kind of amazing, because she really breaks down
I'm
in
excited
such
she's going to be here for the winter summit.
I know, but she breaks it down in such a teacher kind way, right? As a
Yes.
human being kind of way, of like, hey, listen, this is what we thought. Everybody was working really hard, but we were going the wrong direction. Now that we know, it behooves everybody to just get on board, right?
To know, yeah, to have this information and what we can do with it.
And sometimes, if you are teaching in a school that's still in a Fontespanel guided reading kind of mindset, you may be on an island
Yeah.
um, of one. It might just be you. I was going to break into another song, but I'm not going to. It might just be you against, the whole tide. But sometimes, if you can share information with parents, and Sold a Story is told from really not an educator perspective, but more of a um, human being perspective, like parents. It really came from a parent's point of view. and educators as well.
She speaks to so many other parents throughout the podcast and really gets their experiences and their,
So that might be a way to also help bring the conversation to your school so you don't have to do it all by yourself. Because sometimes we know how that can be. We don't.
Yeah, if a couple parents start stirring up a little bit, sometimes the higher powers that be are more likely to listen if it's coming from another source.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we have so much good information that's going to be coming. I'm excited about your session, Stephanie, for sure, because you have this talent of taking complex concepts and making them obtainable without all the jargon. Like sometimes people can get into the, orthographic mapping, and all of that kind of morpholic thinking. We don't want to do that. We want to give people like give me the juice. Let me know
what it is, but then how does that look in my classroom? How does that look in my small group? Yeah.
I have a question about how much information to share about science and reading with parents. I want to proactively share, but if they aren't asking, is there a detriment of offering the information? I don't think that there's a detriment. I think that other than there might be questions about school leadership if they're not on board, right? There might be some questions about why is it that my teacher knows this and their administration doesn't know it. And sometimes everybody's learning about it, but some people aren't talking about it yet. So that could also be true.
Or it's in the works, yeah.
And I think that there is such a quiet shame for kids who know they don't know how to read, that sometimes they don't even let their mom and dads know.
Because they get so good at kind of masking it. Yeah, because like you said, there's that secret shame.
But we also have parents who know that things aren't working well for their child. And there's also some quiet shame to that as well of like, well, what did I know I didn't let them have that one play date when they were 6 months old. That's why we all have that parent guilt that we walk around with.
Yes, mom guilt is real.
Yeah. And I also think about those kids who mask it, like you said, who are really good at fooling us and really fooling them, and parents who may not be necessarily super in tune like they were during COVID when they were watching what was happening.
Yeah.
But these are kids who they know they're not getting it as quick as other students, right? And so it's not even just those students who are going to be identified with the language issue. It's really more than half of your class that aren't working to the top of their ability if they're not taught in a certain way, right?
Right. And yeah, it's that concept of this isn't just good for students who have a reading disability, dyslexia. Like really, this is baseline instruction that benefits all kids across the field, which I think is so important too. That's why, Christina, I think kind of just if you include little tidbits in your newsletter sometime, if you have a parent that's specifically coming up to you and saying, my child's struggling with this, I think it's totally okay to say, well, research supports that this is the best way, this is an intervention that you can try with them at home, and just kind of directing it back to it's research based. And, if parents want to know where that's coming from, I think sharing articles, sharing more information as they ask is more than okay.
Yeah. And I also think it's okay to say, you know what, I'm new to this methodology. And so I'm a learner as well. And so I think that's an okay thing to say too. To say, hey, you know what, I'm learning and I'm going to share as much as I know. I might not have the right jargon, but I'm in the process of kind of building my knowledge, and I'd love for us to do that together. All right, you know what, I had to show her because she's a good friend. Here we come, Keri.
Keri! Hi, Fred.
Hi. I know sometimes like we'll have one person on, another person, and they may not know each other, but I mean, we all like look at friends, so we just like talk together. How are you, Keri?
I'm good. How are you all?
I'm good. We're good. We're just talking about, stuff. We're talking about
that's Keri could talk about too. That's
explicit language, right? We were just talking about explicit language, right? Stuff. Yay. I'm glad that was helpful, Christina. We were talking about what Stephanie was going to talk about at the Educator Summit, which is taking, Stephanie, you say it again, because Keri might have been on.
We're going to try to focus on 8 strategies for how you can bring the science of reading into your classroom, but really focus on that how piece. Like, how does this look in practice in my small group, in my first or kindergarten classroom? Like, I might know I should be doing it. I might know the why, but what's the how look like? And so I really want to give teachers like practical things that they can take into their classroom the next week and just start implementing.
Yes. Love it. Do you need to go?
I think you guys have a whole other session to talk about. So
she's trying to keep you.
I can hang, but I want to listen to Keri too. So
all right. Well, then we're going to hide you. You can hang out in the little waiting room.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Stephanie.
Bye, guys.
It's Keri hour. Well, we're not going to do it for an hour. Keri's like, we didn't sign up for an hour. Hi, Keri.
Hello.
Tell everybody about you.
I'm Keri. I'm in Alabama. My voice is very rough right now because I've had a great weekend. We had my high school. No.
Your high school. Yeah, I saw that you went to your high school.
Homecoming, and so it's been a really good weekend of like hanging out because it was our 20th year out of high school. So it's a very fun weekend.
You're screaming at the football game?
Something like that.
It was in that vicinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know we got.
I actually went to San Diego, and I was supposed to see 2 of my friends from high school, and they both got COVID, so I saw none of them. But we didn't find out till we got there, so that was kind of sad for me. But I got to see a friend of mine's mom, so I hadn't seen her for a number of years, so that was really good. But anyhow, it's not about me. So I'm going to ask you in just a second what you're going to talk about. But somebody said, what can I do to get, let me see, because I got something over the top. I'll just bring that. Oh, I had it there. Duh. What can I do in pre-K to get them ready for K? Great question.
That is.
I always think get them familiar, with the letters so that they can work on naming the letters is always really helpful. And then the other thing I think that would be really helpful is to strengthen those fine motor skills, so that they can take on the handwriting part of it when it comes, and really practice. And Keri, you're going to probably add on to this, but starting on the page and going from top to bottom, it doesn't even have to be letters. It could just be straight lines or going in a circle or any of the, but start at the top because they all start at the bottom. So we want to make sure that those are kind of some pencil movements, tracing, cutting. What else, Keri? What do you think?
Oh, you hit all good things. Even just putting on your jacket, just like independent things would help. Zipping up things, like if they take off their shoe, teaching them how to put their shoe back on. It's like little things.
Yeah.
It helps a ton.
Also turning to each other and having conversations with their peers, right? Oh, Christina's here. Hi, Christina Winter's here. Hello. Just turning to your partners and having a conversation. So in pre-K, it doesn't have to be a super academic subject, but it could just be, tell your partner, what your favorite animal is. Tell your partner what your favorite thing you have for lunch. All of those types of things I think would be opening lunch boxes and baggies. They make it really hard. I'm not going to lie, Jen, I sometimes have a hard time. I'm like, I can't open this. I hand it to Mark. I'm like, can you open this for me? So sometimes they just make it really hard. But yeah, how to open those was really helpful. But just having that peer-to-peer conversation, learning how to, obviously take turns. Sometimes adults have a hard time, so I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead, Keri.
No, those are all good things. I don't know that I have
self-regulation.
Yeah, we literally could list a ton of things all day because there's so many tiny tasks that they can do, which, sometimes it just takes some people a little longer than others, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah, how to, that self-regulation or soothing, not smoothing. You could self-smooth. Sometimes I need that, right? But self-soothing. God, it's so easy for me to say, right? I can't say it at all. Redressing oneself after the bathroom. Yes. coming in with their pants down around their ankles. So Keri, you have a new role this year. Tell everybody what you're doing this year.
Yes, because I did not do a great job of your very first question of tell about myself. So this is my 16th year in education. It doesn't feel like I've been in education that long. I know. I've taught kindergarten and first grade, and this year I'm doing math intervention. And so far, that is very, very, very interesting.
Oh, interesting. That's code for this is rough.
No, it's just, it's just very different from not having my own set of kids and potentially working with the whole school at some point. And, it's just different. But I absolutely I've changed schools, so I absolutely love where I am. They're very my people and very open to the weirdness of me. So I love it.
I love you. I just love you. I love your weirdness. I would imagine because you're in a new school, you probably are learning new kids. So it's not like you are, is that true? I mean, they're different. These are students you haven't worked with before.
Yes.
And were you familiar with the curriculum that they were using at no. Let's see. Would you say that this was a strong curriculum, or do you feel like it was an okay, or you're like, are you having to be Switzerland right now?
I'm being very Switzerland.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure what I think.
Sure. Your year just kind of started too, right?
Yes.
Tell me, when was it that you got that job? Where were you? It was like I remember it was a magical place.
So you guys, I got off a plane going to Dee Dee's house, and I got a voicemail to do an interview. And I was going to be at Dee Dee's house while they wanted me to do the interview. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be in Denver. So then I'm like, Dee Dee, I have an interview via Google Meet. Can I do it at your house? And she's like, yeah.
So we were all outside sending her like good vibes. But yay, of course she got it. Keri is just one of those quiet, at times quiet, right? But like, no, like you're so knowledgeable, but you're not like in everybody's face about it. So like, you're like this, I don't know, stalker knowledge person. I don't know. It's just wonderful. And you're going to be tell everybody what you're going to be talking about at the Educator Summit.
We are going to talk all things counting collections. I'm super excited because I've previously done like a number sense thing and kind of touched on number sense inside of it. But then people ask me so many questions about it after, and I get emails and stuff. And I was like, well, maybe I should start doing like a whole thing on just like getting started, how to like implement it the whole year, because it's not just about counting. You literally this is a year-long thing you can do no matter what grade you teach. And so I thought, this would be a great idea. And thankfully, you are letting me do it. So.
And it's perfect because, those teachers who are like, okay, I don't need that particular skill, but as they continue to listen to your session, they're like, can pick up. And then those pre-K teachers can listen and say, oh, okay, this is what's coming next, or this is what I could be moving towards. So that's wonderful. I'm really, really excited about that. Christina said that she saw a picture of you and you had your own special chair.
I do. I didn't realize this, but it's Dee Dee's husband's chair. And last year I stole it and didn't let anybody sit in it. And then this year when I got there, where's my face in the chair already? So everybody would know that.
I know.
They can't
see she had forgotten her sign, so I made her one. So yay, Stacey, I'm so glad you learned so many great things in the last 2 years. We're really excited again for this year. So really, really excited. Yeah, Stephanie says she does. We all knew. We didn't sit in that chair. We knew. But anyhow, yeah, she does have a special spot. And Christina, we're gonna have to see if you, I don't know, I'm putting Christina Winter on the spot, but I don't know if you would be interested in being a presenter in the summertime, but I think you would be amazing. So I'm just tossing that out. You don't have to answer right now. She's like, no, I don't want to be part of this Hot Mess Express, but we would love it if you would want to be a presenter for the summer, the one we do in the summer. So good times are coming our way, right? So what else you got going on? How many days a week are you in the school? Are you there every day?
Oh, yes, it's full time. I'm there all day. Yep. So I think my schedule of students right now. I'm just doing second grade,
Okay.
and I will be picking. So there's actually another math interventionist at our school, which is pretty cool. So that's all we're going to be doing is pulling kids. So I'm basically taking over her schedule since I started a little late, and she's picking up first grade. And then I'll be picking up kindergarten a little later. So I'll be doing kindergarten and second grade.
So you'll have, like, she'll be the monkey in the middle.
Pretty much.
Okay. But do you ever find, like, I mean, I've never done math intervention, but I think about language, reading and spelling and writing intervention. And sometimes you can have students who are in second grade that really need, right, sometimes those kindergarten skills for whatever reason.
So it's funny the way that they're doing it at the school. It's a very focused intervention and very intentional on what we're doing with the students, because they pretty much are going off of the data from the last year's test and assessments. And so every quarter we're going to be retesting the kids, and then pulling, like, not just the lower bunch of the kids, but we're also going to be pulling the kids that's like riding the fence and who could be green when they take the test.
A little bit more, right?
I mean, because sometimes, that's all those kids need is just like a little bit of extra help and extra practice with the skills they're missing, instead of just, always putting 100% of your focus into the kids that may be reds. Like, sometimes we do forget those other kids need a little extra help too. So that's why, they were looking for somebody else. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's perfect.
Jen calls them the bubble kids. That's exactly it. And like in our own classroom, so maybe a takeaway, I'll maybe ask if you have something else that you could share, Keri, that people can use right away. But in your own classroom, sometimes we see those kids that keep us up at night and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But sometimes we need to look for those students who are just about there. And if you could just give them, they might have some confusion. You can just give them some clarification and then they're on their way. So maybe those bubble kids are in your classroom. Maybe you don't have an interventionist. Maybe you are the interventionist in your own classroom.
So that's how it always was. Like, every year that I've taught, this is the first school I've ever really had where there was a true person for just math, not like an interventionist who pulled reading and math, and they just had to make it work with all the kids. And so I've always just had to take like an extra 20, 30 minutes from somewhere to pull kids. And some days it didn't happen, but I tried to make it happen as many days as possible to get intervention in there. And so, you might be one of those people where you have to pull like 15 minutes from something else to try to get it in. Or if you have like a few 15-minute downtime that's crazy in your schedule, and sometimes it's like, oh, well, what are we going to do here? Because it's only 15 minutes. Like, that's a great time to just pull some kids for like 15 minutes and really focus on something they're missing.
I know. And I think sometimes I would just get overwhelmed thinking, okay, well, every small group needs to be 20 minutes long. Or, I have to pull a whole group when maybe I just need to pull this one and I need to spend 3 minutes today, 3 minutes tomorrow, 3 minutes the next day. And then they're like, oh, and now they're moving forward. So sometimes it doesn't have to be, you want it to be an organized session, right? But it doesn't have to be this master planned part of your day, right?
Right.
Yeah. Love that. Let's bring Stephanie back in because I didn't ask Stephanie. Stephanie, can you still hear me? Okay, we're bringing her in. Here she comes. I feel super fancy with all these people coming in and going out. Now Keri's on top. Do you notice I get my own side? I don't even know how to do that. But the question is, like, what is something somebody can do starting tomorrow in their classroom, Stephanie, that you would recommend? Something they could just take away, some suggestion, and then Keri, I'll ask you the same question.
Sure. So related specifically to my session, one that I had that I loved is just trying to make things more tactile, more hands-on. So going back to talking about that phonemic awareness piece, if they can't hear the sounds in the words, I just like to bust out some Play-Doh. And let's say we're working on a CVC word. If you roll them up into 3 balls, I don't have a board with me right now, but so you'd have 3 of these right there. and just have your kids squish the sounds as you're sounding it out. So if they're working on cat, squish the k, a, t, and then run your finger underneath it. Cat, working on blending that word together. And that's just like, most primary teachers have some form of putty, Play-Doh in their classroom. So that's kind of just an easy manipulative that you can toss in your small group and work on it with those kids that need that skill.
Right. Love it. Miss Keri, you're up.
I think like something somebody can start doing tomorrow is just being intentional with counting with kids. Because sometimes you do all these centers, you do all this stuff, but it's like, are you intentional in like what they really need and what they're, struggling in? And sometimes I think that helps with not needing intervention or not needing so many kids that are missing the skills. Because even if you start doing like a number talks every day, or if you don't like have just a math talk time, you can do like 10 minutes in the morning when everybody gets to school and just sit and talk about numbers. Like, what do you see, with this, any type of conversation, but just make it a math focus and just be intentional in what you're talking about. And it's really easy because it's not anything that has to be super structured. It's just a talk. And just talk about numbers and talk about math and talk about things that we see in the world, and, just make it focused on numbers and counting and stuff like that. And it's easy to do.
Yeah, I love it.
Like little pockets of time. It doesn't always have to be like a huge chunk of time devoted to something like that we're working on.
I think sometimes in reflecting back on my time in the classroom, that I would have these little pockets of time, and I'm like, well, I don't have enough time to do this, and I don't have enough time to do that. So maybe I'll sometimes, like as an adult, that would mean I would get on my phone and scroll and troll on Instagram, right? But in a classroom, you kind of have those time fillers that maybe aren't as, like you say, is intentional. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to make these 5 minutes worth it to these 3 students, or to, instead of just burning up that time. These are tips I look forward to. Thank you. The ones that you take back and use in your classroom. Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Let's go ahead and let's pick some winners. Did you hear Ozzy had to come in and get a drink of water? He's very thirsty.
Oh, Ozzy.
So let's get a winner here. Nicole. So Nicole, you are the winner.
Yay!
I'm trying to see the last name. It looks like
Tenzillo,
Tenzillo, and then COR. There's more to it, but I can't see it in my little box of fun.
I can't either.
Ozzy, what are you doing? There he is. Hi. So anyhow, Nicole, can you email? It's going to be support at, I have to type and talk, summit.com. I'm using all of my, there goes Harriet. So just email her. If you already have a ticket to the Educator Summit, she'll get you one for the next one, or you can gift it to a friend. If you haven't, she'll get you set up. So that will be that. Perfect. Yeah.
Yay.
Okay. What else? Next week, let's see. I have Facebook Live on the 15th, which I'm excited about. On the 17th, though, I get to nerd out. I interview. I'll get to talk to Emily Hanford. So if you are a nerd like me, you want to.
You just got to see her speak like 2 weeks ago, right?
I did.
Yeah.
So can I tell you guys? Okay, because let's just talk amongst friends here and the whole World Wide Web. But so I went up and I talked to her, and this is how it went. I'm talking to Angela. I'm not going to go say hi. She's like, you got to go say hi. So I'm not going to, I'm not going to do it. She's go do it. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I go up there and I'm like, hi, I'm Dee Dee Wills. And she goes, oh, I'm doing your summit for you in this wintertime. I'm like, yes. Okay. So she knows me. And I'm like, okay, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And then I go into this. I can't believe, your podcast really changed everything I think about teaching. And somewhere in there, I start to cry. And I'm looking, I know she's like, security, like I look like a crazy person. But I was like, and she's so gracious, so kind. She didn't look at me like, get back, stranger danger. But I looked like a creeper. I looked.
No.
Oh, that's sweet. I think it's sweet.
I don't know why that happened? I mean, I'm a really good crier. I know that I'm a really good crier, but for some reason, I just was like, I was just overwhelmed, and I
Yeah.
just started to cry. So that was a proud moment for me. I felt like an adult.
Oh, I actually love that. I'm sure she appreciates it too. Like, she's touched so many lives.
What's that?
I think she appreciates that too. I'm sure she gets that a lot. Like, she's touched so many people's lives by kind of, you know, broaching this subject that's like been an elephant in the room for so many years.
Yeah.
Dee, I bet she went back home and she was like, the Dee Wills loves me. Like,
she's like, this girl's crazy. She's not right in the head. And I'm not right in the head, but you know, I had just come off because you know, when I first heard, you know, this all goes back to like when I first heard about the science of reading, somebody asked me, how do you teach high frequency words? And I was like, I don't, I sign them. So that was how I started. And then it started me down this rabbit hole. And it wasn't very long after that that I came across her first few podcast episodes. And so I had listened to them when they came out, and I had listened to Soul to Story when it came out. But knowing that I was going to be talking to her, I wanted to listen to them again. So like literally she had spent like the last 5 hours with me, but she didn't.
In your head.
So that was probably where that emotion came from. So anyhow, yeah, I was an adult about it, but it was great. And she was lovely. And what I loved about her was, you know, I was thinking about like a journalist, and I was thinking about how she might be, but what I really found was she was completely lovely and human. And I was like, I didn't say it because I know she would have called security, but what I almost was like, we could be best friends, but I like didn't say it because she would have really been like, looking for an exit, but she didn't. So anyhow, I'm going to stop rambling. You guys, thanks for taking time out of your day to come and talk to everybody, and everybody who's here. Thank you so much for being here. Keep an eye out. We'll be announcing the next few Facebook Lives. And anyhow, that's everything.
Yay, thank you.
Bye, everybody.